Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the FPL Duo. We're back for a transfer tips video on this Wednesday evening. Obviously, our regular watchers would know that normally we do the stream on a Tuesday, but due to scheduling, we wasn't able to stream yesterday, so we are doing it today. But yeah, hope everyone is doing well. It's been a very long time since we streamed. I believe it was last Sunday. Obviously, we had the international break for the week. Um, I've been missing football. I'm actually glad it's back on the weekend. But yeah, excited to do the stream. And yeah, how you doing, Jordan? Have you been relaxing over the international break?
Yeah, it has been a nice little setback, I think, away from fantasy, I think, for 2 weeks now. But it's nice to get back in the swing of fantasy as it does approach. Obviously, the deadline is coming up soon this weekend. And yeah, we're here to talk about the transfer tips for Gameweek 9. But drop your comments in the chat on what you've been up to, guys, during this international break. Have you been watching the matches? And if not, just voice your opinions.
Yeah, transfer tips. So we're gonna get into it now. A lot to discuss. So we have changed the format as well slightly. So we are gonna do one player each, one pick each, and we're also gonna try be a bit different. We're not gonna go for the obvious players like likes of Mo Salah, etc. We're gonna try be different with a transfer tips video now, just to make it a bit more spicy. So I'm gonna kick it off with the first buy of the video, and that is Pedro Neto of Wolves. Now, I already own Pedro Neto, as you guys know. I did bring him in my wildcard team in game week 8. And again, I've been impressed with Pedro Neto this season when he's been playing for Wolves. And as you can see from his 8 appearances, he does have 1 goal and 6 assists. So he's had a very impressive start to the season, and he is only 5.7 million. So if you've got Salah in your team and you need money, and you need a cheap enabler, Pedro Neto for me is probably the best midfielder right now under 6 million. His ownership is still fairly low, so he's a bit of a differential at 8.8%. And the fixtures look pretty decent. So game week 9, he has Bournemouth away, which again, you could see him getting something from there. Newcastle's tough. Then it's Sheffield, Tottenham, and Fulham. So for the price, I think he's very good value for money, and I'm happy to own him in my team. And he's one of those players that if Wolves are to do something in a game, because we've seen Wolves, they do lack in attack. They've not really got a pure goal scorer, and a lot of their attacking threat is coming from Neto. And whether that's a goal or assist, I think he is very good going forward for them. And I've been very impressed actually with Neto. Obviously, I watched him against Liverpool, and I thought he gave Gomez a torrid time down the left hand side. And yeah, he's a player that I've always rated, and it's good to see him coming off and starting the season really well. So he is the first buy for me. I'm going with Pedro Neto. And the underlying numbers are also decent. Look at it, 0.22 expected goals per 90, 0.28 as well for expected assists. What have you made of him, Jordan? Have you watched much of Neto? And yeah, what do you think of him as a pick?
I'm surprised just to say that his ownership is only 8.8%, considering he's had 6 assists so far this season. I think he has been a bit underlooked, but again, Wolves and in general are normally underlooked because we don't normally go for Wolves players because they normally don't do that particularly well in terms of stats. And it seems like Neto is having like a really good season in quite a while in terms of Wolves assets. There's not really been any player we've really looked to go for, but it looks like Neto is becoming one of those cheap enabler, cheap players to go for in the midfield at 5.7 million. He is expecting a price rise tonight for those who are considering to buy Pedro Neto. But yeah, for me personally, I've liked the look of obviously Neto in that midfield. He seems to be a complete new, different player in that Wolves team, especially when they had Man City last game. I thought that was a pretty good, not just the midfield, but the defense really showed off for Wolves in that game. And yeah, I'm pleased with obviously Neto and other such players in Wolves. They have proven this season that they can obviously beat the best, in which they did beat Man City. So yeah, going forward, maybe a Wolves player like Neto could be the way to go in terms of fantasy.
Yeah, I agree completely. Let's move on to the next buy then, and I'll let you take this one.
So yeah, the second buy, and this is my desired pick, and that is Jensen for Brentford. So Jensen's obviously the midfielder, and this is, I picked this player because this is mostly targeting those who have got rid of Mbeumo, like literally if you've got rid of him last week or the week before that, and you're looking for another Brentford player. I have decided to go with obviously Jensen as an alternative. Uh, a lot of reasons being his ownership is really low at 2.5%, so he's a nice differential to go for. The other reasoning is with the next three fixtures that Brentford do have. So the first one in Game Week 9 is obviously Burnley at home. And we all know that so far this season, newly promoted teams like Burnley have struggled to obviously get wins against teams, because obviously newly promoted teams tend to obviously struggle through the seasons against Premier League teams. And I think this is a great fixture, obviously, for Jensen. He's got 3 goals and 2 assists so far this season. So it's not a bad record for a midfielder, especially at the price at 5.4 million. So again, he's another cheap differential pick that you may want to go for if you're not too keen on Mbeumo anymore. He could be an alternative pick, as he has seen more, I think, more success in the last couple of games where Mbeumo has blanked, I think, in the last 4 game weeks, whereas Jensen, he's had a couple of returns in the last few. So yeah, he could be a different ideal player to go for if you're looking for another Brentford player besides Mbeumo. And you can hold him, I'll say, for the next 3 game weeks up until game week 11. Obviously, they're West Ham at home. Could be a difficult fixture for Brentford. I don't really see that as a green, but it will be an interesting one to watch. And then after game week 11, obviously, you can look to obviously get rid of Jensen if you want to, because the fixtures do swing for Brentford, where they have Liverpool away in game week 12 and then Arsenal at home in game week 13. So it's definitely 2 fixtures that you may not want to obviously play Jensen for. But for game week 9 to 11, I think Jensen is a nice differential midfielder pick at a cheap, reasonable price at 5.4 million that you could potentially look to go for.
Okay, nice one, Jensen of Brentford. So let's move on then to the players that we think we should be looking to sell. Now, this is some players that we've picked. First pick is mine. I've gone. Sorry, you've gone Rashford as a sell, haven't you?
Yes, we've both gone with Rashford as a sell, because normally we go for 2 sells, but
Yeah.
I think we came to an agreement that there isn't really anyone that's not obvious that we could think of selling, because obviously you could go for an injured player, but
Yeah.
we have both opted for Rashford.
Yeah. So Rashford is on the list. I'll outline why I've decided that he's a sell. Now, again, this one might be a bit controversial because he's got a good fixture on paper coming up in game week 9, which is against Sheffield away. Now, Rashford hasn't really been at his top form this season. That's fair to say. 8 appearances, just the 1 goal and the 2 assists. His underlying numbers are 0.34 expected goals per 90, and his expected assists per 90 also at 0.18. Now, again, with Rashford, he's quite expensive at 8.8 million, and I think there's other players in our team. I think there's other players in the game that would rather have in our team, likes of Son, Madison, etc., who are providing more points. And I just think it is time now. I think if you've held Rashford for this long, credit to you. I mean, you might think you want to give him one more game, but for me, I'd probably get rid. I'd like to bring in the likes of Salah, the Madison, the Sons, those type of players. I'd rather have in my team. And I know the fixtures on paper, actually, when you look at the next 5, they do look really good. Sheffield, Fulham, Luton, Everton, but Man United haven't convinced me, as we spoke about in depth a lot on the channel. But yeah, I would be selling Rashford if I had him. I don't think he's a must-have, and he could. Don't get me wrong, he could go score against Sheffield, but I think over the next 5, I think there's other players at that price bracket that could potentially outscore him. But yeah, what's your take on it anyway, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, I am completely on the train of not having Rashford in my team. I think even with that fixture, obviously Sheffield United, even though I said in the previous streams that is a fixture to target, I think Man United is an exception to obviously that fixture where you could target obviously teams that play against them, just because of the form of Man United this season has been really poor. It's not been as we expected it to be. And in terms of fantasy, Rashford is definitely not showing that he's a a potential asset to go for at 8.8 million and only getting 1 goal and 2 assists so far this season in 8 appearances. That is really lacking, and I've completely gone off the Man United assets. I'd even start with any to begin with, just to see how Man United did get on this season, and so far it has worked out for me. And until I see really improvements for Man United overall in the team, then I'm still completely biased of even having Rashford for that Sheffield United away fixture, because I know arguably a lot of people will keep Rashford for that fixture and hold on to see how he does in that game. But honestly, I don't have any faith whatsoever in Rashford in that fixture. Despite he did play yesterday in the Euro qualifier against Italy, he did score in that game though, and looked pretty good. But again, that is the international team, and obviously players do play differently in different atmospheres. And I think when obviously Rashford plays for Man United and comes back to play against Sheffield United away, it's not going to be the same, I think, scenario where we're going to see obviously plenty of goals coming from Man United. Because remember, against Burnley, there was only 1 goal scored in that game. And if they're struggling against newly promoted teams, which arguably that could have been a draw, not really a 3 points for Man United there, I can't imagine what will happen, obviously, against Sheffield United away. Now, this could be completely wrong. Rashford could score, but it's not really something I'm willing to take a risk on, especially for a midfielder spot as well, because they're really precious. And there's a lot more midfielders I could probably name that could probably be better picks, even with the fixture that obviously Man United do have in the long run. Man City is the only hard one out of the next 5 that Man United do have, but I've not liked the form of Man United overall. So even with the fixtures being easy, I still think Rashford and any Man United asset is a sell for Game Week 9.
Okay, so let's move on then to the next pick, and to discuss. So we actually, for this is an interesting one because we'll come on to it, because obviously we've done one sell this video. We usually do 2, but I'm actually of the opinion. I know we're gonna. This one is we disagree on, which I didn't tell you off stream, but he was
Yeah.
my other sell. Because with Rashford, he's a sell, and the other one for me is actually Mbuemo. Now I'll let you put the side of why you should hold him, but I'm gonna come with my side and I say why Mbuemo is actually a sell. Now
Okay.
I'll let you go first. Why have you put Mbuemo as a whole? Obviously, he's one player that you've selected to put to as a hold.
Okay. Yes. So yes, Mbuemo, like I mentioned, has had a lot of blanks, like in the last 4 game weeks. So back when he was in Game Week 4 was his last return against Bournemouth in that 2-2 draw. Since then, Mbuemo has blanked in every game. But with this next fixture, with Burnley at home, I think it's a fixture that potentially worthy of Mbuemo to hold on to, just because of it's a newly promoted team. Brentford have struggled in the last 4 games. They haven't won a game since Game Week 2 when they won against Fulham 3-0. So since then, they've either drew or lost a game. So there is a win coming soon for Brentford. And I think this is the fixture where potentially Brentford do bounce back with a win. And I think Mbuemo can be a part of that, either from scoring a goal or getting an assist, preferably scoring a goal, because he is on penalties as well, which this is why I value Mbuemo as well, because he is a penalty kick taker, while Tony's obviously absent in the Brentford team. So the only annoying thing is he's playing in a different position. Now, I've been hoping that Mbuemo reverts back to his normal position where he plays more, obviously more better. And it seems like in terms of Brentford overall, since then he has struggled, and Brentford in general have struggled to score, or not just score, but win games. So that is my reasonings for obviously hold on to Mbuemo, because the fixture he has up next, and the ones after that as well, they're pretty good up until similar for Jensen. You could pretty much hold on to Mbuemo till, if you feel like it, Game Week 11. And his record hasn't been bad so far. 4 goals so far as a midfielder isn't bad at all. I mean, it's better than obviously Rashford's statistics. And Mbuemo is only 6.7 million. So I'm not expecting so much from Mbuemo. There's obviously going to be a few blanks here and there. And I don't know. I still think I got faith in Mbuemo, considering he's had 4 blanks in a row. But
Yeah.
what's your opinion on it, Huss?
Yeah, no, I actually I'm gonna go with Embuemo. He was my sell, if I'm being honest. So with Embuemo, the reason I would be looking to get rid of him is purely because of the way I've been watching Brentford. Uh, they've not been the same team the last couple games because the way Embuemo has been playing, we know he's been playing out of position, and that has frustrated me a bit watching Embuemo. Um, and again, they've got one win all season, which may not come as a surprise, may come as a surprise to you guys, but they've only won one game. They've drawn, I believe, four and then lost three. So their form is a bit patchy, to say the least. They really should have beat Man United, but they ended up, pretty much throwing that game away 2-1 at the right at the end. And again, I wasn't impressed with Mbuemo's in terms of the attacking threat. He only had 0.11 xg against Man United. He had 0.21 xg against Nottingham Forest in game week 7 as well. We know he's on penalties, which again is a positive. But when I look at the fixtures, even like midterm, I don't like the fixtures because he's got Liverpool and Arsenal back to back in game week 12 and then 13. Someone at that similar price bracket, 6.7 million, is actually Diaby of Aston Villa. Now, Diaby is someone else that when I compare him to Embuemo, I prefer Diaby in my team because taking a look at Diaby's fixtures, Diaby has West Ham, game week 9. Okay, West Ham's a tough game. But then Diaby actually has Luton at home in game week 10, where Embuemo has Chelsea. So for me, at that same price, 6.7 million, I would be going with Diaby instead, just because Aston Villa's fixtures look really nice. And that's just one example. I think Pedro Neto, for me, I might still decide to go over Embuemo. It's a hard one to say because Embuemo's on penalties, so that's a big plus. But for me, Embuemo is a sell due to that out of position where he's playing, and I've just not been as impressed with Brentford. And I think the fixtures are getting tough, so I would actually get rid. So that's one we disagree on, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see. Obviously, what happens in game week 9. If Bremer blanks again, then yeah, that's not looking good.
Yeah, I think for me, yeah, it's the next four that look quite tough. Chelsea, West Ham, Liverpool, Arsenal is very tough for me. So yeah, that's just the reason. Let us know, guys, what you guys think. Do you think you should as a hold or a sell? Let us know in the chat. And also, if you are joining in the chat, if you're watching the stream, make sure you hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed to our channel as well. Well, let's move on to the next pick then, and who have we got selected? And it's another hold, and this is a player that I've actually gone with. This is my selection, and that is Julian Alvarez. Now, Alvarez has actually been sold by quite a few managers. I'm looking at the stats here, just so I'm get the exact number. Alvarez has been sold by about 77,000 managers already, which I do find a bit strange, if I'm being honest. And a lot of managers have sold him, I guess, to bring Watkins in. But I still think, guys, if you've got Alvarez, I think he's still a very, very good pick. His 8 appearances so far this season, 3 goals and 5 assists. So for the money, great value for money. He's now 7 million, so he's had a couple of price rises because of how well he's doing. Ownership has gone up just above 32% as well. So again, you look at his underlying numbers, 0.38 expected goals per 90 is very good. We've seen him play a lot of football as well this season, which wasn't the case last season. We know last season he was on the bench a lot, obviously because Haaland was in man. But with De Bruyne's injury, Alvarez has been playing every match pretty much. I know he got subbed off against Arsenal, but other than that, he's pretty much getting 90 minutes in every game, bar the one where there was a red card to Rodri against Forest. So, yeah, I think Alvarez, guys, I wouldn't want to get rid of him. I know I have for Ollie Watkins, but if there's a way to fit Watkins and Alvarez and Haaland in the same team, I do like the look of it because I take a look at his fixtures, Brighton, Man United. I don't believe those are hard games. I know Manchester Derby is a tough game, on paper, but we don't know what Man City could do to Man United the way they're playing. Brighton at home again. Man City are very strong at home. Brighton, we've seen, are a bit hot and cold as a team. They do concede goals as well. Brighton haven't kept a single clean sheet so far this season. They conceded, I think, 6 to Villa. They do concede goals, and I think that's a good game for Alvarez. And the next 3 or 4 fixtures, I think, are good on paper, and I would definitely be holding Alvarez if I had it.
Yeah, I'm very surprised actually that Alvarez has been sold that many times. Unless a lot of people got put off by Man City's performance in that Wolves game, but that's only one bad game for Man City, and I don't really see that many this season coming from them. to be that really that poor. But yeah, I'm very surprised at that. How many
Mhm.
people have sold Alvarez out of probably frustration from that game. But again, I agree with us. Long term, Alvarez is still a good player to hold on to because he's played every game so far, 8 games, and compared to last season where he was sharing that with Haaland, but now this season they're playing both together on the same pitch. So I think it's the best of both worlds for Alvarez to be a nice hold for the foreseeable.
Mhm. Um, well, let's move it along then now to the ignores. Um, these are players that managers are bringing in. Now we think we should be looking to potentially just, you know, ignore. You've gone with Huang. Talk us through this pick and why you've selected him as an ignore.
Yes, Hwang. There's one reason, well, obvious reason why I've picked Hwang as a obviously as an ignore. It's purely because of his minutes. Obviously, he doesn't play every game, and obviously doesn't start in every game. As you can see, he's had 8 appearances, but 3 of them have come off the bench. And when he has played in games, the minutes have been very variable for Huang. He's always come on for a few minutes for like 15, and then sometimes in other matches 45. And you want a forward that is going to play 90 minutes football, like such as Alvarez, for example. And even though Huang did have a nice haul, a nice double haul, obviously in that Man City game, surprisingly, he's not going to do that every week in and out. And especially against Man City, where they played really poor in that game, I still don't see it, Wang being a really, say, long term player to go for, especially with the fixtures. They're not so bad. I mean, you've got Bournemouth away next in game week 9, but it just depends on how many minutes he does play because
Mm.
sometimes he does play about 50 minutes and comes off, and then another game it might be 45 minutes and then gets substituted on. It all depends, obviously, on that. I think the minutes, and a lot of people have brought Huang in after that double haul he got against Man City, but I think there is other forwards that have more minutes that they play 90-minute football, and obviously you'd want that in your forward positions because we don't have many. Apart from Haaland, obviously, in that position. So you want to choose your forwards wisely. And I think Huang is definitely not one of those that could be a potential pick to go for.
Mhm. Okay. Let's move on to the another ignore then. The next one on the list, and that is actually my pick again as Ben White. Now, I've selected Ben White as an ignore for this week because again, he's another player that has been transferred in by quite a few managers. So just taking a look again, how many of you have bought him in? Um, I'm just checking here. It's not actually showing me. Sorry, yeah, 134,000 transfers in for Ben White, which again is very, very surprising to me. He's one of the most transferred in players, which I don't quite understand. So I know he'd actually had a really good, game against Bournemouth, I believe in game week 7, where he got the goal, didn't he, for that 14-pointer, and then he kept the clean sheet against Man City, so 9-pointer
Yeah.
as well with the bonus. So a lot of people are looking at him, but however, I think he's an easy ignore for me at 5.6 million. He is quite expensive, and I think if you want to cover Arsenal defense in terms of clean sheets, I'll rather go Gabriel and save a bit of money instead. So that's my opinion on it. I think you don't need Ben White. He's not going to get an assist every week or a goal every week, I should say. He's only got 1 goal so far this season and 1 assist. So I don't know why many people are bringing him in. I think it is a bit knee jerky bringing him in. And again, fixtures, they're not bad. Chelsea, Sheffield, Newcastle, Burnley, Brentford. But again, I think Gabriel is the one I'd go to if I was looking at an Arsenal defender. I know Gabriel owners were burned at the start of the season, me included, after his couple of benchings. But it looks like Gabriel is now firmly first team. He has started 90 minutes for the last 5 matches, Gabriel. So it's safe to say at 4.7 million, save yourself, that zero point 0.9 and just go with Gabriel, in my opinion. And yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to add something?
No, I just want to correct a mistake on Huang. Obviously, I said forward, I meant midfielder because I didn't
Yeah,
realize
okay.
he had a forward position change in
Yeah.
fantasy. But yeah, I did mean midfielder for Huang.
Mhm.
Just to
Okay,
clear that up.
so yeah, those are the picks, guys. Let us know what you guys think of the 8 players we should say that we've selected. Obviously, we've gone with Embuemo as a bit of a double. So yeah, let us know your thoughts. Also, we're gonna read a few comments out, but before we do, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, guys. If you are watching for the first time or if you're watching on a playback, etc. We've got Dan in the chat who says evening, guys, and then Harry also as well. Evening to you, boys. Hope you're well. I'd probably sell Embuemo for Gordon or someone similar. Again, I like this shout. I looked at Gordon actually on my game week 8 wildcard, but because he was suspended and he missed game week
Yeah.
8, I didn't look at him. But he's back now and he's got Palace at home in game week 9. So Gordon at 5.6 million could be decent.
Yeah, I did think about this, but wasn't tempted. I don't know
Mhm.
why. I just wasn't tempted. I was still keeping the faith in Embuemo for maybe one more game week where he has Burnley.
Dan Hilton says, think people are worried about Alvarez game time potentially after a long trip on international break, which is fair. Obviously, South Americans traveling, there's always that doubt. Darwin, I believe it seems just going on a tangent. Darwin might miss that game against Everton. But yeah, it could be the case. Taking hit to get Salah this week, fed up with not having him, says NH1999. Yeah, look, Salah again, obviously got that whole game week 8. He's got Everton next. Yeah, is it worth a hit? He could be if you're captaining him for sure. I think Salah's fixtures are good. He's looking good, to be fair to him. He's pretty much returned in every game, I think, bar one. And again, Liverpool's fixtures look Everton, Nottingham Forest, Luton in the next 3. So could be some good points coming up for Salah. Charnel with a question: which one to keep, Jordan? Son or Madison for the next 4 game weeks? If you had to pick one,
I'll probably keep Madison out of those two. I think with Son, because he's more expensive than Madison, and as well, even though Madison may not get as many goals as Son, I still think cheaper pick long term Madison is better because he is getting those assists for Spurs, so you can still get returns from Madison without having Son in your team, where he could save you a lot of money if you got rid of Son, and you could still get the returns from Spurs assets like Madison for the next 4 games.
Okay, I think we're gonna wrap it up here, guys. We'll keep it short and sweet today for the transfer tips video for Game Week 9. We are back again tomorrow for another stream. It is the team selection video, so make sure you tune in for that one. It should be a very good one. We're going to talk about how our team is lining up for Game Week 9 and our potential transfer plans as well, and what we're going to do in terms of our moves. But yeah, and then we're back on Saturday, I believe, for deadline stream. So yeah, tune in tomorrow, 7 p.m. UK time. Anything else you want to add, Jordan, before we do wrap it up?
Yeah, just nice to see you guys back, obviously, and thanks for watching. Obviously, we'll see you tomorrow for the team selection. Until then, take care. Have a nice evening, morning, or night. And yeah, see you soon.